Today's episode topic, art therapy. Something new that I've never heard of before. So I'm going to talk about that in a moment. But first, hello, welcome. My name is Sophia, the host of Flow with the Grow. It is a podcast for all things health, wellness, fitness, mental health, mindset, day-to-day life, highs and lows, the good, the shitty times, the challenges, helping you to flow with all of that, right? Because all of that, with that comes growth, especially through the times that we kind of got some low vibe days, and it's totally normal. So lately, if you're new here, the past month-ish, actually, I guess now almost 2 months, because I release once a week. So the past couple months, I have been really focusing in on spiritual wellness, because when I first started the podcast, I wanted to bring more perspective and topics and bring on guests who could speak into that. So things like astrology and manifestation. And I have a goal of bringing someone on for human design, like all the things. And so instead of doing solo 1 week and then a guest the next week, I'm just doing all guests because I interviewed a lot of people in a short amount of time and have all these episodes backed up that I just want to get out. So it's coming to an end. It's coming to a close for now. Today I have on Nick, and he is a life coach, run coach, endurance, nutrition, like kind of does a whole lot of stuff. So we talk a little bit more about that, but just a little backstory. When we first got connected, we were on Instagram. He started following me, and then we just started kind of having a conversation. And I saw he posted on his story about art therapy. And I was like, what is this? Tell me more. I've never heard of art therapy before. And we talk more about what that is in this episode. So I will let him explain, but it's very cool. It's amazing. And I'm going to show the first time that me and him met on Zoom. We did an initial session just so I could see what it was like before we recorded this one, which he did a different image, I guess you could call it, for this episode. But if you're watching the video, you can see here the picture that I drew the first time. You probably can't tell what it is because I'm horrible at drawing, but it is a lighthouse. And I'm just going to read the back because I right away wrote down what this all meant and the reflections and meanings that he gathered from the colors that I used, the lines, just everything. So it started out as a storm-based image. My day was already low vibe, sad, down, stressful, and tear-filled. I was not having a good day. I almost was like wanting to cancel it, but I figured that it would be good to do this anyways, and I don't like to cancel things, especially for the podcast. So it made sense. I started with and visualized a dark storm, stormy clouds, dark lighthouse, even big waves, which I forgot to mention that to him. Through his questions and my coloring, I started to feel a sense of calm. So I started this, and in my mind, when he told me to draw a lighthouse and me looking at the lighthouse, doesn't really give a whole lot of information. He just gives you a few things. That's what I pictured, was a storm rolling in, big waves, and being far away from the lighthouse. Okay, so my next point was there was light in the lighthouse became brighter, which later on, I found out that means a safeness. I feel a safeness. The next point I said was a sunset started to come in. Calmer, brighter water. And his reflection on that was that showed that I'm just now starting to experience true happiness and passion. And because my portion of the sunset was a smaller portion, he gathered that. So anyways, the next point, me on the boat looking at the lighthouse, moving closer to it, told him, so this was his view, that I myself, in being by myself, experience the safest. That I also feel safe by being raw and sharing my journey for others to be able to relate and also feel safe. Both have the need of having the safeness feeling back to me. So I feel safe when I share my journey with other people, but not needing that safeness returned back to me. So then I wrote, I ended feeling more calm, higher vibe, at peace, like how I feel after a meditation. And then for the clouds, they were closed, circular motion drawing, which means closed off emotions and feeling trapped. Accurate for that day. Okay, long lines drawing equals freer. So those were my notes on that. And I can tell you when we first did it, just some things that he said really resonated because we don't know each other like on a personal level. It's just through social media and just like conversing back and forth here and there. And so he doesn't know much of anything that has happened in my life, yet the things that he was saying really made sense. Maybe not to him, but to me. And they were like, holy shit, how the hell did you come up with that? Because that's actually true. So it was wild. Okay. So then when we recorded, you'll see, if you are, again, watching the video, you'll see the picture, the image, but I was supposed to draw a tree. And so we go through, I won't even say anything more about that, but we go through all of that. So we talk about art therapy, what it is, the benefits of it, the difference between that and traditional therapy. And I'm going to pre-frame this by saying that I purposely left a lot of the ums and the long breaks, the silences. So normally I do not say as much as I do here. And normally I do cut out some ums. It's kind of hard sometimes drawing and coloring, but also trying to listen to his question and then answering. So, and then also for me, I guess I filled that space with an anytime there was silence for me. I did edit and bring in shorten some of the long silences, but there were a few that were purposeful and I just felt like those need to be left in. So just warning you, when you hear the ums and the long sentences, or the long phrases, or the long breaks of no speaking, there's purpose behind that. And yeah. Last thing I'm going to say here before we jump into the episode is that you are now listening to or watching a newly 30-year-old woman. That's right, 30 years old. My birthday was June 19th. And so it was fun. Went to my first Pride parade, and the festival after that, which wasn't like a huge festival, but it was really cool. And honestly, like I was watching the parade and I felt emotional. Like I started to cry, I started to tear up because I just am a feeler. And I feel like as I get older, this is becoming stronger and more apparent, but I feel emotions and I don't know, I'm a feeler, I guess. And I felt just a lot of love and acceptance and authenticity. And I loved it. And it was awesome because no one gave a fuck about anything. They wore what they wanted. They were who they were. And it was awesome. And then later that night went on a party bus, and for the most part, that was a blast. Singing some karaoke. I mean, my sister did Baby Got Back. That's right. Yep. I definitely do not feel 30 years old. So it is really weird that I am 30 years old. I do not feel 30. Most people already are shocked when I told them I was 29 because most of the time I think I'm 24. Okay, let's jump into this episode. So Nick has been coaching and healing others for the better half of a decade. In his 20s, he was a collegiate athlete and team leader. He received his undergraduate and master's degree from Seton Hill University. While he is originally from Pennsylvania, Nick relocated to Virginia Beach, Virginia in 2014 and now refers to it as home. He later began his career as a licensed marriage and family therapist. Nick has worked in the mental health field since 2012. During this time, he has gained exceptional experience in acute psychiatric and residential placement facilities, along with intensive in-home and outpatient therapy services. He also acquired various unparalleled experience in the mental health field, military community, and inner workings of family systems. Nick is widely known for his specialized training in art therapy, play therapy, sand tray therapy, and marriage therapy. He specializes in human needs, psychology. He is continuing his studies through the Robbins Madness training program. As a seasoned marriage and family therapist and life coach, he is passionate about advancing human potential and breaking through mental limitations. If you would like to learn more about him, his services, you can visit his website at www.leaveyourmarklifecoaching.com. You can also find him on Instagram at leaveyourmark1107. As always, that will be linked in the show notes. I hope that this episode can bring you just a little bit more insight into art therapy, what it is, a new idea, maybe try it for yourself. And if you watch the video, you will actually get to see me draw and do this like in real time. So you'll have the visual, not just the audio. But let's take no more time and we'll jump right into the episode with Nick. Hello, Nick. I almost said Nicole. Oh my gosh, because I was thinking, my brain was thinking Nicholas and Nick at the same time, and it turned out as like Nicole. But yeah. Nick, welcome to Flow with the Grow. So happy you're here. I'm so excited for today.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah. So we met. We met on Instagram, social media, and we did a Zoom and did a initial art therapy type thing initially, and this is the second one. So first, can you just tell us more who you are, what you do, kind of give some background with everything?
Yeah. So for me, I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I practiced and did that for about 10 years. I really loved everything about that world. My only struggle with that was the aspect of diagnosing and labeling people. I did not like that. I didn't like it since I began with it, but it was kind of one of those things where I was just kind of stuck in that moment. As I was going through the clinical phases and then, I was in the work for about 10 years, I kind of wanted more. I wanted to get away from the labels, get away from the diagnosing aspect, the insurance part and piece. I started studying to become a life coach. So I studied under Tony Robbins, who's one of the best life coaches there is. And going through that process, it taught me a lot more about how to combine both. So like for me, I'm a very intuitive person. I love to be in touch with my mindset, my body and everything. And I love to get away from obviously the labels. So combining those two, I wanted to understand mental health, but I wanted to actually combine how do you set goals? How do you, push, limits mentally, physically, all those different things. So that led me into opening up my business, which is Leave Your Mark Life Coaching. I combine that with my second business, which is run coaching, mindset coaching, nutrition coaching. So for me, I'm an all-in-one kind of guy. So anything that we can do to understand ourselves at the highest level, mentally and physically, I'm all about it. So I'm always going to learn new skills and just to push our limits to the absolute limit.
Yeah, nice. How do you feel like the life coaching, because do you integrate like the life coaching in with the running as well, or are they just completely separate?
Yeah, so they're actually combined in. So mindset coaching with the run coaching, like I'll randomly get a text from one of my clients, like I'm not feeling this run today. What can I do? How do I work it? And it's, instant where I send a text and kind of rewire them. And, one of the texts I sent recently was, do you find yourself to be an honest person? The person replied back, well, yeah. I'm like, did you promise yourself the night before that you were going to go for a run? Like, yes. I'm like, then make sure that you follow through. Don't make yourself a liar. And there's different techniques that I use in terms of throwing things out there where do what you say you're going to do. And even if it sucks, you can still bitch and complain about it and still struggle with it, but that's okay. And putting people in a position to be accountable and having them follow through. So there's usually always a big component to mindset coaching with run coaching. Running isn't easy. It's not necessarily enjoyable all the time. There's a huge part of discipline that I love about running. That's why I run as well. So I'm an ultra runner. And the big thing I love about that is you have to be disciplined in every area of your life, with family, with nutrition, with everything, in order to be able to be successful in that space.
Yeah, mindset is so important. So it's really cool that you implement that. And there's even been times when I'm thinking, do I want to not call myself a life coach, but get like a certification to be a life coach? Because I feel like that is what I do too. It's the health and fitness, but also Absolutely. I work like you, I work on the mindset. That is so important. And I think it's kind of becoming more and more people are realizing the importance of that. Because I remember when I first started with training, no one taught me mindset is important. We need to ask better questions. We need to also coach them, not just in their workouts, but outside of their workouts. So it's really cool that you do that. I think that it helps people even more, just like with improving the running or just life, business, everything.
Yes. And I found, like I said, like that it's adaptable for all the stuff that I found to be successful in my life. And I just want to break things down so that way people don't have to read all the books that I've had to read in terms of going through my schooling and everything. Like I love to learn. I'm a very immersion type learner too, and not everyone is. And I like to cut that learning curve in half so that way someone doesn't have to read hours and hours of personal development or mindset. Like I can break things down that is most impactful, and I can present it to people in 20, 30, 40 minutes and still get a breakthrough, or at least give them some traction to start the process that they want to go down.
Yeah, for sure. And we started talking about, and we did for art therapy, right? Like you took me through this process of kind of like a picture for like a drawing for me to do, and then you were asking me questions, and we're kind of going to do that today too, I think. But I didn't know what art therapy was. I remember you told me that, and I'm like, whoa,
what is that? Scribble on paper, right?
Yeah. So I'm sure that I'm not the only one. There's probably so many people who's like, what the hell is art therapy? Why should we do it? How is it helpful? So can you talk more about what art therapy is and the process and how it can help and all of that? And how it's different I think you kind of mentioned too, but like how it's different from traditional therapy.
Yeah. So I love the aspect of words. I think words are very, very powerful. A lot of us that get into the stigma with therapy and different things, like we don't want to talk. It's hard for us to open up. It's hard to trust people. It's hard to lean on people. So I ran into this years ago. I was working with an individual, and words just was not going to break through to this person. So I'm like, what do I do? Like I was in that moment. So I'm like, crap, I couldn't even draw a circle at the time. So I'm like, how do I break through to this person? And she was artistic. I'm like, well, great. I know nothing about that. So for me, I went home later that night, and I was going to see her again in a week. I'm like, I have to read everything that I possibly can in order to understand what art is, how I can adapt it, how I can relate to this person. And I became hooked at that moment too, because art for me, I combined all the readings with more adaptable, more, I guess, coaching, more therapy approaches too. So it's a hybrid of a lot of different things. So art, in the way that I use it, it's a way that we can kind of look at our subconscious mind, where the way that we talk, the way that we interact is that most of the time people walk through life and they don't realize why they're doing what they're doing, why they're thinking the way that they are, what colors influence people, what emotions influence people. Like, and a lot of time people will be down a complete rabbit hole and they don't realize how they got there. For art therapy, the way that I structure it, it helps people see what they don't see. It helps people feel what they don't see, feel. And at the end, when we look at the picture that we draw, and it's like, well, what did you draw? And most of the time we're like, I don't know. And then when you start really breaking it down and I can start pointing out things, I'm not educating someone on what I think is right. I educate them based on what they showed me that they did. So that way, when someone reflects on their art, it's because they get to see their own breakthroughs. That way they don't have to lean on a therapist or coach where it's like, oh, I see that this influenced me, that like I put someone in the driver's seat so that way they can be in charge of their own life. And I think that's the biggest breakthrough that we can ever achieve in life, is if I can lead someone and have them feel like they're in control, it means all the difference in the world. So that way self-esteem is there, that way confidence is there, everything like that. So for me, my art, the way that I structure it, I put people in the driver's seat to understand how they think, how they operate, and ultimately look at what influences them.
Yeah. And I think it's so cool that it's just another form of therapy. Like if there's someone, I know I told you last time that someone came to mind that she has been trying a bunch of different therapists, and it was more, I just saw her like posting about it. But when we talked about it, I was like, oh my gosh, maybe art therapy would be something. Like it's just another cool, another form of therapy that someone might not think of, but could be beneficial if talk therapy or, the traditional one isn't the way for them, and that's okay too.
Yes.
So yeah, that's really cool. And I remember when we did it, I had a lot of like, holy shit moments, because I did the coloring, the drawing, and then when you were seeing it, you were just kind of telling me what you saw. You asked me really good questions, and then you were sharing what that was telling you. And we know each other through social media, but you don't really know anything about my personal life or anything, but you said things that like was related to my life in the past, or like how I am now. And it just was like, holy cow. And then it made me, I had some realizations too. I'm like, okay, that's like, yeah. So it was wild. It was super cool. So today you said that you have a new one for me that you've never done before.
Yeah. So I've never done this one before. So it's kind of like one of those things, like I'm a very genuine, raw person. Like for me, I love certainty in many areas of life. Like that allows me to feel safe and calm. But a lot of us in terms of life, it's uncertainty. So for me, I wanted to do something different too. So it produces more of a genuine, more of a raw, a very unscripted thing for me, because like I've done this for numerous years. So I wanted to kind of at least bring to your viewers more of what this is from my personality, but also from you. So that way it's like, oh, it's completely random, because I don't know what this is going to come out like. I don't know how it's going to be. So it's more of every single session that I have with someone, it's always random. There's never a script. It's literally, you could throw something out in a second. I would have to respond to it. So it's going to be a really neat experience for me, because I haven't done it before. But like I said, for you too, to provoke more a rawness and a genuineness that hopefully everyone can kind of relate to too.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Very cool. I'm excited. So should we do it?
Yeah. So the only thing that we need for this is colored pencils or some form of color, and then a regular pencil and a blank sheet of paper.
And then do I need to bring my computer down again like I did last time too, so you can see what I'm drawing?
If you could, so that way I can, so that way when I'm looking at, so I'm not going to want to focus on your face. I want to focus on the drawing. So this process, so I'm going to focus kind of where we were last time as well. I'm a big, and I think most people, and especially maybe your viewers and things as well, I'm a very goal-driven, very future-focused individual too. And so this one's going to be more focused on what does it look like to move forward. So for us, vision is the biggest part of having those breakthroughs, having that ability to kind of capture what's out there, and also to capture some of those in the moment experiences and be grounded and be safe, all those things. So I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to picture you're standing on a bank, you're standing in a field, wherever you want to picture. Allow your mind to kind of go blank a little bit. And as you're standing there, I want you to picture what distance would look like and how this would kind of really feel. So capture more of in the moment, in that moment, the feelings aspect. What's blocking your way from seeing the final destination is a giant tree. And I want you to draw what you see based on you want to go forward. What's in your way is a giant tree. How do you draw? How do you get around this tree? How do you move forward? And where are you moving forward to? So that is
okay. So sorry, go ahead.
Nope. So when I usually lay it out, it's sometimes I don't like to give as much detail because I want the subconscious part of the brain. I want people to create what they think and feel. So it's a really intuitive approach, because most people, I want more information. You didn't give me enough. I don't know about this. That shows me more of what their personality is like as well, because we want so much information, but we have to learn to lean on ourselves too. So there's a reason I give very minimal, very broad, instructions, because it does a couple things with the personality. It either makes us panic, or it's like, I'll screw it. I'll create whatever. So that's my rationale around there.
Okay. Got it. Mm-hmm. So I can start?
Yes. And as we go through this, I want you to kind of recognize, or at least we're going to talk back and forth as in, where did you start? So we can start anywhere, like as in, why do you do what you do? I know we've kind of talked about that a little bit last time, but I think that'll help influence some of the emotions that we're after too.
Okay.
So the journey that you're on right now, why did you start that journey?
So, and then draw at the same time, right?
Yep.
Okay. So so the question is, why did I start why am I doing what I'm doing?
Yeah. So what makes you do what you're doing? Why are you doing what you're doing?
Because I've always been into health and fitness, and it's I like learning it for myself. I've had challenges myself. And then in the process too of trying out different things, I found that I really liked helping people and inspiring people, especially when someone would say, I love what you're sharing. Oh my gosh, I can relate to that. That happened to me. Things like that, like just inspiring people and helping people. And then, let's see why I'm doing what I'm doing. And also with having my own business, like I've just always known that I want to have my own business, because I want that time freedom and flexibility. But also since working on personal development, I have there's just another way to live, like a whole, people say like growing up, you have to go to college, you have to get a 9-to-5 job, and you like all of these things. And I just know that what I was making in my last job, I could potentially make in a day. Like there is not any limitations. And I don't know. I want to work for myself. So I guess like that's why I am doing like having my own business that way. But the health and fitness side too, like there's so much misinformation out there, and people really struggle, and it sucks. And like, it's so cool to be able to be the one to change someone's life.
Gotcha. What is it like when you actually change someone's life? Like what drives you to do that? so in changing some lives, like how do you feel? What provokes that emotion? How do you feel around that? So explore a little bit more around that.
I feel like I have purpose, and I feel like I have purpose. I feel, I guess, like fulfillment, purpose. Wait, what was the question again?
I guess what makes like the aspect when you focus on helping people, like how do you feel based on around that? Like helping them have a breakthrough, helping them have connections, like the stuff that you do in terms of your work, like what emotions do you really feel at the end of that?
I always feel excited. Like it just gives me energy. And it's, I guess, yeah, the main words that come to mind is like rewarding and purposeful. Mm-hmm. Those are kind of the main ones that come to mind.
Gotcha. Now, where do you see yourself going with this business? Like, what does that look like?
Ooh, good question. I see myself impacting a lot of people, like making a huge impact, and being able to just continue my reach with people. Like I want to be able to not just help people I can use color, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. I want to be able to not just help and reach people that is like in my hometown, but also people who are, not in my hometown via like social media, the internet, things like that. Shit, what was the question again?
Like, where do you see yourself? So with the business that you're building?
Oh, yeah. Okay. And doing so like the coaching side, but then also I've always seen myself creating. That's like, that always comes to mind. I want to create, whether it's like workout programs or it's some sort of course, like a digital course, but also I've always wanted to do like public speaking,
right?
More so like the, whether it's maybe health and fitness, but also like mindset and the fact that like your life means something, like you can something within that, like kind of like that, inspirational life advice or whatever, and things like that.
Gotcha. So now as you're drawing, I'm making notes and things based on what our conversation is and the areas that your hands go to, how you're drawing and things like that. So that's what I'm doing as you're doing that too. Okay. So that way some of your listeners and things kind of can understand that.
Yeah.
So where do you get, honestly, where's your downtime, your free time? So if you're constantly in this field of wanting to push yourself, wanting to push other people, what does relaxation really look like for you?
Ooh, relaxation.
Yes. What is relaxation or downtime? What does that look like?
Usually it's just like, I like to not be on my phone, being, by myself, having like that alone time and being out in nature. That's like huge. And then that's really the main thing, like being out in nature, my alone time. I also will like take a bath, maybe exercise, going out walking, and just disconnecting. That's like the big thing, is like disconnecting from everything.
Gotcha. What happens when there's silence?
When there's what?
Silence.
Oh, so, silence.
Yes, because you're a very energetic, very go person. There's downtime, there's things like that. But what happens, that's why I paused there a little bit, is that what happens when the world is calm, when there's not a goal that you're chasing, when there's not things that are producing a secondary stimulus. So I'm a person that I love to stimulate. I love to move. I love to constantly have new projects. And when the world seems to go blank or calm, like it's almost like a trigger in my head of like, I have to provoke something. I have to do something. Like it's a very uneasy feeling. So like, what's your brain do?
Yeah, there's a couple of things, because it kind of depends. Because sometimes like when it's quiet and not much going on, I like that too. Like it's kind of a time for me to reflect, and it's just kind of reminds me to just be. But also there's definitely times when I struggle because I feel the need to like be productive or be busy or continue to work. Like, I just feel like I need to be doing something. I also struggle with the silence and not doing anything because of those things. And just needing to feeling the need to work and be busy. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. What do you hope to add to other people's lives? So like we talked about some different things at the beginning, but where it comes back to always to purpose and things like that, like how do you want to leave your mark? And that's obviously the name of my business too, because like I'm on a very similar mission that you are in life in terms of impacting others and helping others. But how do you want to be remembered, if at all?
Oh, good question. Yeah. Okay. So joy. Like, I'm someone who has brought joy to people and inspiration and positivity, like to be that light, like to be that, to be the light in someone's darkness. And, you know, when there's so much like negativity around, or if someone's not having a good day, I mean, I have those days too, but like to have a different, to kind of show someone that perspective is important, and for me to have a different perspective on life and on situations. And it's kind of like that, a different view for people that maybe they didn't think about. And someone who was always genuine and kind and listened to people. Like, when I'm talking to you, I'm looking at you in the eye and just paying attention and being patient.
Gotcha. Do you ever feel like your personality at times can be too much for people?
Yes.
Tell me more about that.
Yeah. Maybe like, I don't know, not too often I feel that way, but I think that sometimes I'm so energetic and very like, I can be loud sometimes if I'm talking to someone. Like, I just remember I met up with someone and she was like a lot more quiet, but I was a lot more like energetic and high. I guess, yeah, just more energetic. And then afterwards, I'm like, I wonder if I should have matched her where she was at more. But then again, sometimes I'm like, well, maybe people do like that. I don't know. So yeah, yes and no. Sometimes I feel that way, but also sometimes not. Because I feel like I mean, I've been told that I'm very high energy and kind of like a positive type vibe. And they like that. They appreciate that. But then also sometimes my personality can be shy. And when I'm talking to people, it can be like, yeah, I guess shy is the word. I don't know. I don't usually think I'm ever too much for people though.
Yeah. I think the reason why I asked that is that usually like I experience you as a very confident, very motivated, driven person. And what I've ran into in my life is people often see that as intimidation because of their own stuff that tends to where it gets in the way of that too. So I wasn't sure if you ran into that because with my personality, people see me as driven or excited. Like, I love life. I'm always moving. I'm always happy. I'm always, driven. And people that aren't on that same page will sometimes get intimidated by that.
I see. Yeah, I guess not. I don't know for sure. Like, no one's ever said anything. But I feel like if anything, it's more of like an inspiration to people. Like they like that aspect of my personality.
Good. And I think like it's nice too, because in the right market and the right people eat that stuff up. They absolutely love it too. So I think that's the cool part in the space that you're in as well. Like, people absolutely love it.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Very cool. What would you say is probably one of the hardest things that you've had to overcome in terms of your life, in terms of resiliency and perseverance? Like, what would you say the hardest thing is?
Ask that one more time.
What would you say the hardest thing that you've had to overcome in your life has been up until this point that showed resiliency, perseverance, like up until this point?
I guess what comes to mind for me is my internal talk, like self-doubt is the main thing. Like, I've always had, I see the bigger vision, the bigger picture.
Mhm.
And so that's like really what keeps me going. But there's
Mhm.
definitely times where I have self-doubt.
Mhm.
And that's been something that I have to kind of work through internally.
Mhm.
But then I keep that resilience because of my vision and the bigger picture that I see.
Gotcha. And what's your support system like?
I have a very good support system. I would say, I mean, my friends have always been supportive and family too, but my main support system here at home is my girlfriend, and she has believed in me more than I believe in myself. And she has, I guess, made a big impact on my mindset, like when I have self-doubt.
Mhm.
So very supportive.
So with you having the personality that you do, you're always pushing people. Who pushes you? Well, who inspires you? What people do you look up to?
Um, I would say, the people that, I guess the people that are doing what I want to be doing, but then also there's this aspect of like comparison when I see that. So, I don't know. Who do I look up to? I don't really have an answer for that.
Good. Then we hit a good area then. Who did you look up to when you were a kid?
um, who did I look up to when I was a kid? I mean, I guess my parents, and also my grandpa. I remember when I was younger, we had to write I don't know if it was a poem or like an essay or something about someone that we looked up to from The Giving Tree. It was that book.
Ah,
And yeah, and The Giving Tree. And I think I remembered that like my grandpa just always came up in my mind because he was so giving and kind. And so I always looked up to him in that aspect. Otherwise, also, like, there's not really anyone else that like specifically I looked up to.
so what personalities? So we'll switch it to not just a person. What personalities inspire you? What energy inspires you? If you're around someone, something, what moves you?
Ask that one more time.
So if you're around anybody, don't put a face to it, don't put a name to it. If you're around someone's energy, what energy pushes you, moves you, inspires you? What makes you a better person by being around that energy? Because sometimes we get blocked if, like I said, that's where I was trying to find what was holding you back. If we attach it to a face or attach it to a name, sometimes there's so many things that block us in there. So if we can eliminate that level of almost compartment, then we can capture a little bit more or a little bit more in depth if we focus on what actually does move us.
Yeah. I would say kind of the same as me, like just having high energy and also being driven, and also like, so lately I've been kind of more around people who are spiritual, like very they believe in a higher, like the universe or whatever. But it's kind of like it's calming, but also it brings me back to just myself. Like it's so hard to explain. I can't really explain it. So like one aspect, it's like the high energy, but another aspect, it's the calming, like grounding. And like, so my girlfriend Kiana, she's very grounding. So like so there's kind of like a two-part there.
Oh, yeah. What emotions do you feel right now as you're doing this?
I feel calm, joy, happy. Those are the main ones I would say. Just kind of content.
Okay.
Peaceful. At peace. Let's see.
All right, close your eyes for 1 second. What emotion are you currently thinking right now? Without even a pause, say it.
Peace. Is that an emotion?
Sure. All right. I was trying to capture, so you were just using the color white. So
Yeah.
I didn't know if that resembles that or not.
Oh, yeah. I never really grabbed, I don't know. It was weird. It's kind of weird. I just was like, oh, I want the white.
Is there anything else you want to add to this drawing?
I don't think so. I'm just trying a couple more flowers.
Okay.
Okay, done.
All right. Okay, so what did you create?
So I have a tree. It starts off with, let me see, move this up a little bit. It's bright. There.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is me, and this is the very beginning. And then I see that there's, this big tree in the way. And so there's two ways that I kind of draw here. So the first one is I climb it to go over it. And then also I go around it like that. And I always pictured always smiling through it. And then at the end, like, and even after here, like this victory, like my arms in the air, victory.
Yep.
And then the sun shining, the blue sky. And then I know this is not really right in reality because the sun, well, I guess kind of the sun rising. I didn't realize that. But this is kind of like just sunset type like colors and stuff. And then some flowers.
Very cool. Tell me more about the tree. What made you draw the tree the way that it is?
I just like pictured in my mind a big tree, like it was a big thick stump, tall, and then a very green tree, also very big. Yeah.
What age is the girl climbing the tree?
Oh, young. Like comes to mind. What comes to mind is like just like even before teenage years. I don't know why. That's just what comes to mind. But I didn't have an age in mind, I guess. But I guess when I was drawing it, it was me like this current age or younger.
Mm-hmm. What would you say the hardest moment in your life? What age were you at?
Oh, I would say just last year, honestly. Yeah.
Okay. Tell me about is that a hole in the middle of the tree?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
That is, I don't know, actually. It's like just a nest for an animal or something, like a little hole kind of in there.
You remember the first thing that you drew on the page?
The first thing I drew, it was the path, I think. Wait, yeah, it was this line right here.
I'm trying to think if it was that. I know one of the first thing besides that was the hole.
Oh yeah, was this one?
Yep.
So I think it was maybe this, and then I think it was this, and then I did the tree. Wait, maybe I did the hole first. No, I think I did the hole after I drew this part.
What else in there?
So, well, I was noticing that I did like kind of circular motion in the tree here, but then like most of them I was kind of going back and forth like this. And I just remember last time we did it, it was kind of more me. I was a bit more aggressive when I was like doing stuff, like especially the clouds.
Yep.
But I just felt like, and also it's very light colors. Like it's not, I don't know. It's not like, I didn't like go really hard or just choose like super dark colors. And I did the purple on the hair because it's supposed to be me.
Yeah.
And then the flowers, I think mostly that was just kind of in my head was like, and these like little things too, but kind of resembled like other little thorns, or it's not like a thorn, but like other little challenges. And then the flowers for growth.
Very cool. And tell me about the top of the tree.
Top of the tree. Oh, it is just like all the leaves and stuff. And right here is like branches, I guess, branches, because going through, like going above the tree, I just like, it's kind of like, I mean, I didn't draw my person, but like the branches are still in the way. So I still have to go through all of that to get to the other side.
Gotcha. Very, very cool. All right. So now you're ready for my reflection. You can kind of see what fits and what doesn't.
Yes.
Okay. So
still?
Yep, you can hold it up. So one of the first things I noticed, so that was the first thing that I picked up when you were drawing was the hole. Like I said, I can't remember if you drew the lines behind it or not, but I noticed you drawing the knot hole in the tree. And for that, in terms of more of an art therapy approach, that shows that you're a forgiving person. Shows that you're a very forgiving person, but you are very, very, very hard on yourself. So as you navigate through life, is that it's easier to forgive people, move on, but you internalize maybe a lot. You beat yourself up. You have very, very, very high expectations and standards for yourself.
Yep, that is accurate.
Yes. So like you said, and then especially where the hole is placed in the tree. That's why I asked what age was the girl, because usually that hole in the tree usually starts or it's basically at the age that we were at when we started to really shape our personality. And for you being roughly 7 or in that young teen, obviously that's huge for any female to start really growing, shaping, evolving. You started making sense of the world at a very high level, probably around that point. Started understanding family dynamics, yourself, everything else, and maybe even identity was forming quite a bit right there, which shows, you climbing the tree. And if you notice the right hand or the hand of the girl that's climbing the tree, that's held on by a very dark line. So that's the darkest line that I see on the tree. So usually dark lines are very confident driven lines. That means I'm firm. I know who I am, what I am. I'm rooted. I'm grounded in where I'm going.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yes. So everything else on the tree is, light. You have strokes up and down, but that one's almost like I'm holding on and I'm getting to the top of this thing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wow. Yep.
Yeah. So tell me about the bottom of the tree.
The bottom, so let's see. Okay, so it's the colors here. So it's the trunk, whatever. And then I drew like a little, kind of like grass, but it's like just an area below, I guess. Gosh, I don't know. I mean, it's just like I don't know what you call the bottom of the tree. Yeah. And then there is like a little
yeah.
And then planted, I guess, like just on this little like hill or grassy area.
Yeah. What made you not draw roots?
Oh, I don't know. I think just because I didn't think about it. Like it's more of like I pictured above the ground versus underneath.
So in the art therapy around that is without someone drawing roots, it shows that you're a very confident person. Is that usually roots are an anchor point for people, as in I need stability, I need to anchor in, I need to basically grow downward. So when people put roots there, it's usually a symbol of the wind's coming, the storm's coming, and I have to anchor in. So people that tend to focus more on the wind tend to be a little bit more edgy in terms of life. You drew your tree basically above ground. We know the roots are there, but you drew it above ground because of the confidence that you walk through everyday life, where the storm's coming, all those different things, but you're embracing and ready for that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. All right. What else do we have? How would you describe your tree?
Strong and durable. It's like, so it's big, it's strong, it's durable, it's thick, bright. I guess like the green, the leaves, bright colored.
So yeah, so basically on that description, so usually someone that draws, I see this as a very big, wide tree. It's very, like you said, strong. It's very, it's just there. So usually a wide tree is showing a sign of being very protective of either people around you or protective of yourself, showing once again the confidence aspect of things too. And the tall tree, like you drew it even off the page, and that is resulting in more of a futuristic forward thinker, which clearly you are. And that's when we were talking about some different things too, like drawing the top of the tree. It was rooted more in future. And let's see, yeah. So when I was asking what about the future, that's when you started really focusing on the treetop. And that's when you started talking about creativity. You shaded in the top of the tree and you wanted to impact people. And that's the first time that you asked, can I use color?
Oh.
So once again, like when you ask those different things, color means emotion, color means life, color means all those different things. And like I said, with you picturing, or when you asking that at that particular time, like that's when you started really looking towards the future, because that's where all your juice of life really comes from, is future.
Yeah.
And that's where all your happiness stems from, all those different things. We know what the past is, all those things, but that doesn't define you. You're a much more futuristic thinker. And like I said, and then even all the detail that's in the top of your tree as well, showing if there's branches there, if there's details there, if there's leaves there, that's showing lifelines, that's showing resilience, that's showing a lot more, I guess, of a story, but also a lot more opportunity than others. Other people do not usually shade in at the top of a tree, or they just won't explore. They'll just make it very, bland kind of thing. You have a lot of detail on the top of your tree, which shows a lot more futuristic thinking.
Yeah. Wow. And I definitely do, like kind of how we talked about, like I think about the bigger picture in the future.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah. So shadedness, anywhere that there's areas of shadedness, as you were going through this, that's showing commitment. So like, as we were talking about future and path, the path that you're on, anytime that was really connected with positive, happy emotions, is that there was such commitment that was there. So like anytime there's light shading there, that shows that, no, I'm committed to it. I'm moving forward. I'm going in that direction.
Yep.
And the nice part, like even around, so like all I said was draw a tree. That's it. And the cool part about your personality is you look how much you put around the tree. There's humans there. There's you, there's flowers, there's this. Usually when people put a lot of those different things, it means you're very in tune with yourself, but you're very in tune with what's going on around you too. And that means that's showing your work, obviously, too. You need to understand what people are doing, how you influence people, what the personalities are like, and you want to spread, joy, which are flowers. So if you drew, animals or something else, that would mean something different. But for you drawing flowers is obviously the happiness, the joy, those emotions, and then the colors that you used as well. It's showing a lot of that.
Yeah. Wow.
Some people, like I said, like this is the cool part, because like your personality as well is very free. So other people, if I would give them the same directive, they might not draw anything, because I'm going to stay to black and white, as in you told me to draw a tree, that's it. But for you, you're like, I'm going to do what I'm feeling, what's going on. And that means you captured all of the surroundings too, because that's a part of your personality.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Oh, that's cool.
And I remember doing our first one too, is that, do you remember what we were talking about when I asked you, I guess, how would you be remembered? Do you remember what you drew there?
What did I draw?
So you drew the sun, which is yellow. I remember the last time that we were doing the same activity, yellow for you means joy and all those different areas too. So it's neat that just asking one question really pulls your personality in the direction that it really is. And then that means that's the color, but like using different symbols and different even creations, it literally highlights exactly what you think and what you feel at your core.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yep.
What else are you thinking? Now, what are the pink things on the road? Are those flowers?
Yes, those are also. It was more of like the top. Like I just kind of pictured the top of the flowers, I guess. Yeah, that's what that is. Those are.
Now, tell me about like where are your people at? Is that a road, or like what are the lines that are behind the tree and then before the blueness in the background?
Yeah, so it's just like I just pictured a path. Like it's a path, grassy, I guess, kind of path, but smooth. So yeah, not like a road or anything. I just pictured more of like in nature type path.
Okay. Now tell me about the people that are not on that path.
Okay, so this was more going like to the tree, up, like climbing it, going in it and around and down. Whereas this one, she chose going around it instead of through.
Gotcha.
I don't know. I just pictured, like, when you said in the very beginning when you were talking, these were the two that like came right away to me, like at the same time. Kind of like two options.
I like that. What I'm gathering from that is that, like, usually when there's dark lines on paper, it usually shows a little bit more reservedness, a little bit more protection. So like this stuff that you're talking about from starting off, the biggest person on the page is the very first one that you drew, or the one climbing the tree, and then on the other side, then it kind of wraps around. But there's that ability for you to be seen as a young child, I can imagine, ability to be seen as you navigate through. But there's that level of, once you got around the tree, there was no more rules. Like, you were in charge. You were in charge of your life. You started creating, and you no longer had to follow that path. You were free to go about in terms of nature, in terms of the flowers, all that level of freedom. So like, there's two parts of your personality. You like the rules, you like the boundaries, you like to follow the structure on some level, but there's also that personality trait where it's like, I need to do what I know is right as well, which means I'm going to go around the tree. And that means the uncertainty, but there's a lot more freeness there.
Yeah. Wow. That's so true. I've even thought about that too. How like, I mean, I like structure, but also the freedom to be able to do more. And just, I see that there's more to things, like even life, just not following the norm or whatever, the status quo.
And I would say, like, usually when I do a lot of work with people as well, like, just based on this interpretation, is when you choose that path, who are you at your core? Usually I always, go from child brain to adult brain, where usually we pick a very safe, conservative route. Usually that's more of the child brain in us, as in, I need to do what's safe. I need to do what's right, because I might get in trouble if I don't. And usually the adult brains is, I can think on my own. I'll mop up whatever mess I create, and I'll navigate this way too. So I would challenge you, is what areas of your life do you still take that path, and versus what areas of life do you kind of branch out a little bit? What areas are you confident in, as in, I'm going to make my own path, versus I have to follow a path that someone laid out for me, or someone that says is right.
Yeah.
Because you have two parts of that personality, and at times too, when there's fear, when there's doubt, when there's uncertainty, I guarantee you probably lean more towards the rationale side, which means, I need structure, I need an organization, I need the right and wrong of life, I need the safety net. And when you're more confident, more free, there's like, I'm going in this direction over here, and because I know what I need to do.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah, that's true. That's a cool gathering of that you just had.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even think about that.
And like, the nice part, like, as we're navigating through like this isn't fact. This isn't anything other than me pointing out an observation that some of it is based on, obviously, the therapeutic background, but it's also based on just people and humans and things that I've just encountered for the last, few years as well. And like I said, like, I love to point out observations, and then that way the person has the ability to be like, that fits or it doesn't fit. That makes sense or it doesn't. Like, it's nice to put people in charge of. I like that interpretation, or I see it more this way. Like, putting people in charge of their own lives is what allows them to really be grounded in what they think and what they believe.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That's cool. But it also just kind of gives another interpretation or perspective, reflection, and then for them to decide like what.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why I love this art aspect too, because we're not focused on how well of an artist you are. We're focused on what comes out as you just simply sketch, as you draw. And like I said, like, this is more of a story, rather than, let's say, if you went to art school for 15, 20 years, you could draw such detail, but at the end of the day, that doesn't capture the emotion that something like this does. Like, this tells a very specific picture and a story that's only detailed to you. You can share it, and then that's the only way people would understand what's going on. If not, someone would look at it and be like, why there's so many girls playing here? I don't understand.
Yeah.
But it's just one. And it's nice how much privacy I can help people gather. And that way no one can judge a piece of artwork, because the emotion's not in the artwork. It's really truly in what the artwork means.
Yeah. Wow.
So people start to have a little bit less harsh critic on themselves, because, like, we're not judging the art and how well you can draw. We're judging how much detail and how much vision, how much freedom do you have when you reflect on it?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Do you ever have like when people are doing this, I'm sure they have like a lot of realizations like, oh my gosh, kind of like how I did.
Yeah.
Have you ever had anyone where like, what's a time when someone went through this and they had that realization? And then do you know, like, did it change kind of the trajectory of their life, like going this path versus this path? And then also where someone was like, no, this is not my I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, what are people's kind of responses?
So usually I use a lot of this, like when people are so emotionally trapped and they don't want to admit things that is shameful, because in their own mindset, like they live with shame and guilt and all those things like that. So to say things out loud, it's hard because we don't have the right words to do it. Artwork gives you the words and the emotion, so that way you can actually articulate it. So when I usually navigate through this, it's usually somewhat of a trauma-based intervention too, because like I said, people are so emotionally blocked. So some of the breakthroughs that I've had is when there's trauma, there's abuse, there's things that people get blocked in life. And usually when I have them go through this, it opens up their mind to be like, I didn't realize that was holding me back as much as it is until I actually created it and seen it myself. And then that freed them in that moment, because they actually saw it, where it's like, wow, I didn't realize I was giving that much weight to one situation that happened to me in my life. And I help people change their story, where it's like, that situation happened. We're not dismissing it. We're not neglecting it, but how do we give the weight to it? But also, how do we rewrite the story, as in it's a part of you, but it's not all of you. And yeah. And that's the moment of, if you were to keep that part in this, artistic, like, so if, let's say if that were to happen with us doing this, I would say, let's go back, let's put real focus on that happened, but who have you become because of that? Is that I want you to draw another picture based on that situation happening, but who did you grow into? What areas are you strong in? What areas do you still need work on? That would be another interpretation, another, emotional breakthrough, because someone is now taking control and taking the ability to say, I'm actually going to give focus to this, and it's no longer going to own me in my subconscious mind. I'm going to take active focus on it. And now I'm going to draw a picture, being aware that it's there.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. Just another approach that can, again, like you said, just be kind of a breakthrough, and help someone realize what is potentially holding them back, and they don't even know, or they don't even realize it until they do this.
Yes. A lot of the things that I love to do as well, like for me being an ultra runner, I was really diving into the depths of, when I'm running, when I'm on these deep, runs, 20, 30, 40 miles, is usually there's always voices that pop in my head. And I love challenging what I actually hear. And the reality is if it's negative, it tends to not be mine. Is that it tends to be someone else's that was a very early, childhood, a very teen, is that someone implanted a word or a saying or a doubt or a fear, and then that grew legs and grew into something else. So like the things I love to challenge is, I'm hearing this replay of, you're not enough, you can't do this, you can't do that. But oftentimes it's not our voice that is truly controlling that, it's someone else's. So the thing that I encourage and push people, get crystal clear on when that started, and then you can take control of that, and then you can rewrite, ultimately rewrite it.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So do you do this with all of your clients, or is this kind of a separate thing, or you give them the option?
This is usually, it's an option. It's usually if I run into someone that isn't wanting to emotional process, or there's something where they're just emotionally blocked, where I'm like, hey, what we're going to do today, instead of just doing this, I want, we're going to do something different. And most of the time people are always open to it, because like I said, they trust me in the value of the process. And my intention is always, I want to have you have a breakthrough every single session that someone comes in. So if I suggest something, people's like, even if I'm not good at it, I'll do it, because I know there's something in there that you want me to learn. So that's usually where I present that as. But usually it's people that want to know more, and they're hungry to know more, because this intervention requires people to have a desire to see and feel things, but also be open for whatever comes out.
Yeah. Yep. Right. Do you ever do this on yourself?
I do it all the time on myself. I got really big into doing the art, and that's what made me so passionate about doing it. Because, like, for me, I'm a natural suppressor. I naturally hide stuff. Like, I don't realize what's there. I just feel it in my body. I chalk it up to energy wise, and like I was just always struggle at the end of the day. I'm like, how do I close my day? I feel all this stuff, but I don't know what the words mean. I don't know what it is. So like I just started drawing and sketching, and then I started analyzing, like, why did I do this? Why did I do that? So I started really trying to understand the aspect of, okay, well, I use this, and sometimes then I venture into using pen, which is more permanent, more confident. So like there's always different things that go in terms of artwork that really push our personality too. So I use this when I get emotionally blocked and walled up. That's usually where I would go to figure out answers. Because it would influence my art.
And do you just sketch something randomly, like whatever comes to mind, or do you have like a kind of like this, like you have a specific thing that you kind of go off of?
So my artwork has grown over the years, so it's gotten a lot better. So like usually where you started today, that was a very beginning stage of where I started as well. I could barely draw anything. I drew like little dots and little bubbles and things like that. So as I continuously invested, months and hours into the work, I started to be like, what else am I capable of? So then it became more of a personal mission for me. Like, I want to create this. I want to, add some different things. So my artwork now is this one that I'm going to show you was more, I'm like, I'm trapped. I'm feeling this anger. I'm feeling this frustration. How do I let it go? So the one that I drew here.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So for me, like, I absolutely love gorillas. I think their personality and who they are, and like, the strength that they have is absolutely mesmerizing. Every single time I watch them, the way that they move, the way that they care, that like all the different things. I'm like, I'm them at the core, but like these individuals can rip you apart in a second. Where it's like, just because I feel that anger doesn't mean that's who I am. So I'm like, I try to picture now in my brain, if I'm going to do an art activity, what do I feel? What animal? Because I love animals. I'm like, what animal shows the feelings that I have? So like I'll look through and then I'll find an animal. Like that's what I feel. So then I'll draw that, and then I'll process what that looks like after that. And then I'm like, oh, how much detail I spend in the mouth or the eyes or the ears or nose. Like then that's what gives me the feedback. Because
holy
like
shit.
because like in this one, like for me, like the mouth is the most detailed aspect.
Wow.
Which is showing the ability to say, I just want to rage. I want to, yell. I want to show all that frustration, but how do I process it in a different way? So, yeah.
Yeah. For anyone who's just listening, go watch the YouTube video at this moment, because that's like first of all, like it's a really good drawing, but like you can just see, like, I'm sure if you were to, dive more into it, it would make even more sense. But just by you saying this right now and looking at that, like I can see the relation between like how, that feeling and then what you were drawing. But also for anyone who's just listening, that is an amazing drawing of a gorilla, very detailed. And like it even looks like the texture of it looks like
Absolutely.
a real gorilla.
Yeah. And that's where and that's where I get my certainty from, is that my artwork has evolved over the course, but it mimics my personality, which is I'm a very detail oriented person. Like that's where I get my value. That's where I get my breakthroughs, is that I find if I spend more time in the detail, that's where I get all my answers from, is that I'm a big picture person, but details are what separate me too. So the next one I'll show you is when I was actually, and this one I think you've seen online too. So that one's all in pen. So that's my first one that I've ever did in pen.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So doing that, I was in the process of opening up my business, and I'm like, I'm in a state of such uncertainty and such fear, but how do I find a way to attach such confidence where I know there's going to be mistakes, but me deciding to do it in pen was I have to learn to be okay with mistakes and turn them into something beautiful. So I literally had to say, no matter what comes out on this paper, I have to have the confidence that I will turn this into a picture that is peace, that is relaxing, that is a journey. So when I was going through that, that's why the walkway to the beach, I love the beach. I live in Virginia Beach. So for me doing that was the journey I started. And no matter what I created, I love the ability to have, I know where I'm going, I just need to make sure that I get to the details and the outer work of everything, where that's where my life is. That's where the passion is. Everything else, like, I love to stay in my lane, because nothing very rarely ever knocks me out of that. If I lock eyes on something, I'm going to get it done one way or another. And so drawing this picture, it was, how do I find a way to be comfortable being uncomfortable and creating artwork even when I'm making mistakes time after time? Because usually I would just draw and then erase something, or make it more detailed. I had to find a way to be detailed with chaos.
Beautiful. How has doing that, like this for you consistently, however long you've been doing it, how has that impacted you, your life, who you are, how you go about like challenges or business?
Like, you mean in terms of like artwork, or just my work with people? Or
So I would say like, so you doing this, like the drawing and everything, how has that helped, I guess, like helped you, like moved you forward, or any massive realizations that you had that now you have changed that story for yourself?
There's the thing that I realized years ago, even doing the art, there's always a reason for everything. And I think that's where I became obsessed with, like, when people come in and I don't understand this, I don't understand that, like my job and who I am as a person, no matter what I do, no matter what I say, no matter if I wake up, if I sleep in, whatever the reality is of my day to day, there's always a reason why I do what I do. And same thing for other people. So knowing the subconscious mind and being so obsessed with learning what's there when I don't realize is there pushes me to constantly always evaluate myself. Like, I have every single day, I always evaluate myself. Why did I do that? How am I thinking this? If I get thrown off, how do I recenter myself? Like, it's always a self work, and evolution of just growing and evolving. And people always ask me, don't you get tired of that? Absolutely not. Like, I know what suffering is, and I refuse to suffer. I would rather dive into hours and hours worth of self work rather than sit there and not know and have no ability to actually resolve what's going on. I'd rather become obsessed with learning. Why do I think the way that I am? What's going on here? What's going on? Like, I find that as passion and excitement. I can have pain all day long, as long as I'm being active and saying, I want to understand it. And, of course I want to understand it sooner than later, but I would rather say I'm on a mission to understand it, not to resolve it, just to understand it. And then I can find the appropriate place on where it fits in my life.
Yeah. Wow. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to, like, it doesn't even have to be about art therapy, but just like a message that you want to share with someone that is listening, or just kind of any last thoughts?
I think for me, just being in personal development, like, I would love for people to find the way to trust, whether it's me, whether it's someone else, like, have the ability to say, I want to lean on someone that has knowledge that I don't, and find joy in curiosity, find joy in someone else, that, getting to learn from someone. And I think, like I said, like, for me, most people find things intimidating, where, for me, my personal life, my circle is very, very small, because most people feel it's like I'm analyzing them, I'm judging them. It's like, at the end of the day, like, that's their stuff that's going on. So, like, I wish people would move past their own fears or their own insecurities and say, I want to know more about myself. It's okay to open that door and explore your mindset and explore your, what your limits are. Like, we don't know what our limits are until we actually start really pushing that route. And like I said, like, the thing that I really want to do is inspire and push people. The same thing for you. And I want people to find their limits. And that usually results in you're going to struggle at times too. And I'd rather people struggle rather than not ever give themselves the opportunity to fail or to ever be in discomfort. So I think my message was, seek discomfort, allow yourself to say it's okay to willingly sign up for discomfort, because being in discomfort is going to find you one way or another. And I would rather be in control of it. I'd rather sign up for the big races. I'd rather sign up for challenges and struggles rather than me sitting alone and saying, I wish I would have been more. I wish I would have done this. I wish I didn't have this. Like, I'd rather go out and do it.
Yeah. One amazing perspective. And I think it's also amazing that you stay curious. I know for me, like, I try and stay curious and learn more and ask those questions. I think that can be really impactful. If someone's wanting to learn more about you, or they want to get in touch with you, or like they want to learn more about your running coaching, life coaching, where can they go to do all of that?
For my Instagram, it's Leave Your Mark 1107. So that's where I upload a lot of my day-to-day thoughts, my background of, I'm always going on a run. I'm always signing up for another event. I do a lot of personal reflections and things on there as well. A lot of mindset coaching things that if people can't connect with me, or if they're in between sessions, like, I always try to have some kind of a a word or phrase they're saying so each day that, allows people to still emotionally connect or give something to think about. And then that has links to my website and things as well. So if anyone ever wanted to do run coaching, nutrition coaching, or, mindset life coaching as well, all that's kind of right there. And like I said, it's available for whatever people want.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And they'll all be in the show notes as well.
Yeah.
Last question.
Yep.
So my podcast is called Flow with the Grow. I love, everyone has such a different answer every single time. So when you hear that, what comes to mind? What does it mean to you?
Flow with the grow, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, like that's like also like that walls me up instantly, because like that flow, like I'm a very structured, detailed person. So like flow, like I always have to work on flow. So like what comes up for me is having the ability to flow with whatever comes up, with whatever questions asked, with whatever happens in life, because at the end of the day, that flow is always going to be what makes you grow and what pushes you to that next phase. And I think the openness to go in that process, same thing for like you and I talking today, it's just that random flow of how far are you willing to allow that flow to happen. So I think for me, like what I take from that is, the more you're open to that ability to just drift, to just let your mind wander, let your body wander, do new things, sign up for new things, it allows you to grow, exponentially.
Yeah, for sure. Love it. Cool. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on and doing this with me, the art therapy with me, opening myself up to learning more about what this is and how it can help, and for sharing all of this with us. Super appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Flow with the Grow. I'll see you next week for your daily dose of positivity and growth.